I am the CEO and founder of Cubby. We make pretty cool smart safety beds, mostly focused on kids with different disabilities and special needs.
What were you seeing, maybe like experiences by families or other people that you knew that might be using these kinds of beds that made you think, we kind of have to do better?
These families, they created beds themselves, often in like a backyard wood shop or partnered with an Amish craftsman or things like that. In my opinion, they look pretty scary. They kind of look like big boxes that you're putting a kid in. We wanted to make it much friendlier. We used really premium fabric materials.
What's the future of Cubby Beds look like?
We have some big dreams and visions there. We have just incredible demand. We have almost 1 million people that have signed up to be interested in our product, that have filled out a 20-question survey to see if they'd qualify, to see if they're a good fit. That's just incredible opportunity to help more of those families and build a big business.
All right, we are live. We have Caleb Polley from Cubby Beds on the Claim to Fame podcast. Caleb, thanks for joining. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here with you guys today.
Yep, welcome. Happy to have you.
For sure.
Sweet. So, Caleb, for anyone who doesn't know who you are, we always start off with kind of asking a little bit about your business and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I am the CEO and founder of Cubby. We make these pretty cool smart safety beds. Right now, mostly focused on kids with different disabilities and special needs. A really wide variety. We've probably worked with over 100 conditions at this point, but the most common are autism, cerebral palsy, epilepsy, Down syndrome, conditions like that. And we really help them with 3 things. Sleep. A lot of these kids don't sleep, and that not only affects them, but really affects their parents, their siblings, everyone around them. Safety. So a lot of these kids have fall risk, elopement. They may have seizures that could result in them getting hurt. And so really trying to keep them safe. And then one of the foundational elements of both of those is sensory. And so really helping them improve their environment so that they can self-regulate better. They're not as anxious. And that sensory piece often lends to more sleep issues. They're really sensitive to the sensory things in their environment, which causes them to not fall asleep or wake up all the time. And same with safety. There's a lot of issues with the sensory environment that lead to safety concerns. I'm happy to do a quick description of the product if it's helpful. It's a kind of a hard thing to imagine, but I could try my best.
Yeah, let's hear it. How do you describe it to someone who has no idea what you do?
Yeah,
like,
what's the elevator pitch?
Describe the product. Let's hear it from the man himself.
The very basic version would be that it's basically a very smart tech-enabled blanket fort or a huge pack and play that allows these kids to be safe. But think of like a pod bed that goes over a bed, provides padding, soothing environment, a bunch of safety features like safety sheets that prevent entrapment. And then we have soothing sensory features in the product. So a circadian rhythm light, a sound system that does nature sounds, white noise music, vibration pads for tactile stimulation, aromatherapy sleep spray, weighted blankets. And then on the safety side, the padding and the enclosure is really important, but also have kind of similar to a baby monitor. We've got cameras, sensors, two-way microphones, so parents can remotely monitor from anywhere in the world. They can detect movement and sound and get notifications on their phone so they can check in live. And then also does a lot of video and sound recording, which can be really helpful, not only for the parents or caregivers, but also their medical team around them to see what's going on at night, or maybe they just had their first seizure. You're able to bring that footage into your doctor and really fast track their care pathway. So yeah, that's pretty product. And then also spent a lot of time working with many of the same companies you guys work with, DME partners, to help families get access to the product through insurance. The vast majority of our Cubby Beds that are shipped are covered by insurance or Medicaid, which I almost consider our second product is helping people get access to it.
That's awesome. I didn't realize it had all those. I've of course seen pictures of it, but I didn't realize it had all those bells and whistles inside of the bed. That's awesome.
Got a lot of features, and what's cool is you can really customize it to whatever the kid or sometimes adult needs, and that can really change by age, by diagnosis. There's a lot of customization within the software.
Before we get too far under the covers or in the bed, let's rewind. From Alex's research here, apparently you were building businesses as a teenager. What was it like as 15-year-old Caleb running a 6-figure e-commerce company?
Yeah, I definitely did do that. I'm frankly not really sure why. I think I was a little bit of a weird kid, and my parents are entrepreneurial in their own ways and like research and stuff, but are business owners. So My first business, was importing products in the early 2000s from Asia. This was like pre-Alibaba. So I was using other websites and imported lots of electronics, clothing, media products, and ended up starting a pretty big eBay business through early high school. That ended up evolving more into, I was really early in like Google ads. This is pre-Facebook advertising. So did lots of AdSense, AdWords, and affiliate marketing through high school. So that bought me my first car, paid for college, was really
Nice.
the start of my business experience. And also I'd say a lot of what I've learned there, I'm now trying to apply here of doing a lot of online first activities in what's often a pretty old school market.
What was it about like business at such a young age that sort of lit you up?
Man, I wish I had a super clear answer for that. I think I'm a very curious person. I think I am a money-oriented person and that I wanted to be able to buy my snowboard and pay for my own stuff. I didn't grow up in a super high net worth family or anything. My dad was a middle school science teacher and my mom was in school most of my early life and then later became a clinical researcher. So I think I just wanted to be able to have some freedom and opportunity there. And then I just really like building things, whether that's websites, hardware products. I grew up building rockets, potato cannons, hovercrafts, trebuchets. I burned my eyebrows off at least 2 times, maybe 3. And so I don't know, I just love building. And I think that applies itself well to business where you can have a lot of leverage and scale with one person and a computer. And that was the start for me.
You know what? I actually, hold on, Alex. I actually still have my potato launcher I built. I think when I was 14, and for some reason my mom kept it. It's like in my parents' house. Got a giant PVC pipe where you put the hairspray in it. Yeah.
I was going to ask if you guys bought that Russell Brunson DVD that he was selling on potato launchers, the ClickFunnels guy.
Yeah, I know Russell Brunson. I didn't know he had.
That was like one of his first products actually that he sold was like how to build a potato launcher.
Yeah, look it up. He put it on. He recorded how to build it and sold DVDs to people Googling super early on how to build a potato launcher.
I was one of
There you go.
You mentioned kind of bringing some of the, I guess, concepts that you learned back then to your business now. Was there anything in particular, maybe painful lessons learned that kind of still guide you today for better or for worse?
From those early businesses?
Yeah, anything from like the early e-commerce days or marketing companies that I know you said you're kind of bringing some of those concepts now to Cubby, and anything in particular?
Sure. Yeah, I would say both of those businesses, and then I spent about a decade in tech and software before this as well. So I've taken a lot from there. I think one of my big ones just in business in general is I think we spend so much time hypothetically theorizing in our heads how customers in the market will react to products or messaging or value props. And I learned early and then continue to try to learn and reinforce with my team here that you got to go talk to users, you got to ship stuff. I think people spend so much time just planning on a whiteboard and not actually going and talking to the market and either thinking how, wow, this is going to be so amazing and successful, and then it ends up flopping, or often the inverse of there's no way this is going to work or this is too hard or something like that. And we take off these little bite-sized chunks and just keep moving forward and taking feedback from the market, having a good feedback cycle and iterating. That for me has been for sure one of my biggest learnings. I think a second would be, I have a saying I use a lot with hiring that I prefer to bet on people's slope versus their y-intercept. So how fast can they learn? How fast are they growing? How fast are they accelerating in their skills? And for most roles and most things in life, I believe that is more important than coming in with a really high y-intercept of they know all the things. But often the y-intercept of knowing all the things means you've got blinders on. That's the way it's always been done. You can't do it that way. And the high slope people tend to figure out how to go around that or over it or under it. And there's certain rules you definitely want the y-intercept. I work with a lot of lawyers. I'd want a high y-intercept lawyer. Our regulatory and quality director has got 2 decades of experience. He came in very experienced. But our product person, for example, she comes from software and has really learned medical devices and hardware and is now almost a year in and an expert on it, absolutely crushing it, and has brought in a unique and fresh perspective versus someone that had maybe built old school hospital beds for the last 30 years. And so I think those have been some of my, I'd say, key things that I take forward today.
Totally.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. You know, I talk to a lot of DME owners, and oftentimes when they bring in somebody from outside of the space, it definitely brings a fresh set of eyes on just the entire process, right? Because a lot of people are stuck in their ways. So I totally agree with you there.
Yep. And you got to have some patience up front, and ideally some experts that they can talk to and get up to speed, some advisors or a couple.
Yeah.
We do try to balance it. A couple of people on our team have very deep industry experience, and then they can share that with the people that don't, but are taking a unique perspective. And we end up meeting in the middle with a more fresh, innovative approach, but still taking into account all the things that have been tried before, the demands of the industry, the restraints that are there.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of red tape in DME. So you need like a perfect Venn diagram to nail something like this. Cubby Beds, though, it wasn't just a startup idea, right? It was inspired by a childhood friend. Is that correct? Can you take us back to that moment, kind of from tech sales, when this all started, and kind of how it transpired? Was it on a napkin? Was it how did this all come to fruition? I feel like relatively quickly, or was it slow? Just tell us a little bit about the transition.
It was very fast and very slow at the same time. So I went through a lot of napkins. This has been a almost 15-year journey for me on the product side. And then you're right that a lot of this came from personal inspiration from a childhood friend who I was his peer helper in elementary and middle school. Had Down syndrome, was both a ton of fun. He was a bundle of joy, but also experienced some of the challenges that not only he went through, but then how that affected his family, people around him. And so that created a lot of empathy. As I mentioned, my mom was a clinical researcher at University of Michigan, so she really reinforced the same thing for my younger brother, who worked with another child with disabilities who had severe cerebral palsy, so he was often over at our house. And that just generated a lot of empathy, understanding, really wanted to help these people and figure out a way that I can do that, not just on helping a couple people, but I believe business is one of the best ways to scale impact to help thousands of people. And we've now helped almost 15,000 families get over 5 million nights of safer sleep at this point in under 5 years. So really amazing. Incredible impact in that amount of time. The winding journey, though, is the product actually did not start in the medical space. It was a pod bed for low-income housing. So still a very impact-oriented product, but I was trying to sell these like pod capsule-like beds in college to homeless shelters, disaster relief, hostels, anywhere people sleep in a room together and you don't have privacy, security, things get stolen, stuff like that. That business ultimately failed. I had some good and painful business lessons of you have to make a business model that people can actually pay for. And unfortunately, homeless shelters or disaster relief sites, it was really hard to turn that into a real scalable business. So I pivoted and evolved it, actually moved from Canada here to Colorado, worked in software for 4 or 5 years there. That company was hyper growth, ended up going public and then getting acquired for a couple $2 billion, huge exit for Colorado. And I got bored. I was selling software and making good money, but I'm like, I should do something useful with my life versus selling more email marketing software. And so went back, restarted this medical version, really based on seeing what was currently on the market and thought I could build a much friendlier, more modern, tech-enabled version and then sell it through the internet. And so worked nights and weekends for a couple of years, 2017 to 2019, quit my job in 2019, and then launched the business in 2020. Was the sole employee up until about $1 million in revenue. So did every job in the business, some jobs pretty well, like marketing and product, some jobs like finance I was horrible at. So I quickly tried to find those people. And now my role is hiring people better than me in all the jobs and continually trying to fire myself from the different areas of the business and setting more of the long-term vision.
That's definitely the goal, right?
Yeah.
When you were kind of like looking at what was available product-wise in the market, what were you seeing, maybe like experiences by families or other people that you knew that might be using these kinds of beds that made you think, we kind of have to do better?
Yeah. So I think talk mindfully to this because I have a lot of respect for the competition and often we actually partner with these companies on market access and funding and advocacy work. This market is so big. There's probably 2 to 3 million kids in the US that are applicable for a bed like this. Autism is now 1 in 31 kids in the US and has grown like 100x over the last 20 years. So there is a very large market here. And I would say we're still as a category probably selling maybe 30,000 beds a year, if that, across the category. So a lot of opportunity there. Most of our competitors started because they had a child with disabilities, special needs, a cognitive condition themselves. And they, at first, were like, I need to figure out a way to keep them safe, to help them sleep better at night. I need to not be so stressed out all the time that my kid's going to get hurt, which then results in me not sleeping, me having anxiety, me losing my job or destroying my marriage. We see some really painful stories out of these situations. And so these families, they created beds themselves, often in like a backyard wood shop or partnered with an Amish craftsman or things like that. And most of them resemble essentially a baby crib, like the wooden crib with the bars, but then they make them adult size and put ceilings on them. And in my opinion, they look pretty scary. They kind of look like big boxes that you're putting a kid in. And so we wanted to make it much friendlier. We used really premium fabric materials. I wanted to blend a home decor product, something that kids would really want, that parents would be proud to show off, mixed with a medical device, which we are a regulated medical device. I've spent a lot of money and time in making sure that our device is tested, meets regulations, has all the certifications, can get covered by insurance. And then we added in the technology flair that I really bring here of the remote monitoring, the sensory features, and then our go-to-market distribution. But I want to give a lot of credit for those companies because they've been around for, in some cases, 20 or 30 years. And it's really, really hard to start a medical device from 0 to 1 from complete scratch. You got to figure out where it sits in the FDA. You got to figure out how to get insurance to pay for it with HCPCS coding. You got to figure out what distributor is best for this. How do I get it into the market? And so because those companies have been doing it for quite some time, I was able to take a lot of the stuff that was already working well in the industry and improve upon it, or in some cases, just do it similarly, and then improve a lot on our go-to-market, our distribution, and the technology-enabled friendly product design. So that was kind of my path here of, I don't really believe in fully reinventing the world. I take things that work in other areas and apply them to my business, and hopefully that helps more people.
That's awesome. That's great. That's a really cool story. And I mean, obviously you were saying you're kind of like building these things from scratch and you have to ship them all over the world, all over the country now. What's been like the hardest part of that journey, going from like 0 to 1 and coming from like building inside your garage to now being all across the US?
Yeah, there's different types of problems at different stages, I would say. A lot of my problems today or opportunities, challenges are more on, we're a team of 40 people here in Denver and over 100 across our warehouses, factories, et cetera. So that's a lot of coordination, communication, prioritization. Often it's around people. And when you have that many people, it's just a lot more people to align and make sure we're all working on the same stuff and going in the same direction. By far, the most stressful moment was, if you go back to my founding story there, I quit my job in 2019. I had made enough money on that exit with the tech company that I had like 2 or 3 years of runway of personal savings. And I'm like, I'm going to take a risk here. I'm going to go all in on this business. I did not make life-changing money or sit on the beach and drink Mai Tais. I was a pretty junior role at that point. But I was like, I'll take a risk here. And so quit in 2019. I launched the business early 2020. And guess what happened a couple weeks after launch?
Yeah,
COVID. Yep.
Yeah.
And I was a sole employee building hardware. Our factories were shut down. Our warehouses were shut down. And then also my personal savings were all in the stock market, stupidly. I learned a hard lesson there. And that went from 2 to 3 years of runway to like 7 months of runway in a matter of 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And so it was just back against the wall. I got to figure out how to get this done. I mean, as you all remember, we had no idea how long this was going to last. Is the world ending? What's going on here?
To flatten the curve.
Yeah. And then supply chain also was an absolute nightmare at that point. Our steel prices went through the roof, all of the shipping stuff, so many delays. So all that was really painful. The good news, I think, in retrospect, was COVID really did accelerate healthcare by at least 5 years, maybe 10 years. They dropped a lot of regulations of cross-state stuff. A lot of families were at work and then their kids were in daycare or school or therapy. All of them had to go home. So families, because they're at home with their kid, they don't have the normal support services. The need for a Cubby Bed was already huge, but then it just went through the roof. Like you could not hold down your job or function as a family with your kid at home, you and maybe your spouse all trying to be on the computer. And so we just saw a massive, massive spike of demand. I ended up growing really fast from there. We basically 5x that first year, triple, double in terms of just growth rates over the last few years. And we're now a big company, and so we're now focused a lot more on dialing in our processes, really supporting our DME partners, frankly, that growth, our distributors, the big ones, told us it's the fastest growing product they'd ever seen. That came with some pros that we grew really fast. It also came with some cons of, man, this is a lot of process change and a lot of noise, and we're getting a lot of questions and demand for this product, and we don't really know how to deal with this level of online demand and leads. We had 250,000 people a month going to our website trying to get access to this thing. And so we've worked a lot with our partners of how do we do that in a more measured way, a way that helps them best service their customers, best figure out their reimbursement processes so they get paid. All those things have definitely been some lessons over the last few years.
I think I heard you say opportunity challenges instead of problems. I like that. That might be the title of this. So you have all these orders, and I've seen a ton of the reviews. I think I've seen you post kind of just like scrolling all these good reviews on LinkedIn, which is incredible. Is there any story of impact that sticks with you or a moment you'll never forget?
Oh yeah, that's my favorite part of this business. I think I talk often to the team, and even when hiring, there's a saying that I like to blend of, do you hire missionaries or do you hire mercenaries? And I really want to hire both. I want people that are really motivated by impact, but also want to build a big business. And I find some days I'm really motivated. I wake up and like, we had a big revenue day, or we're doing great on our sales. But that also tends to, you kind of get used to that. There's that classic like treadmill theory of humans just get used to the next level of success. And so more and more, I'm finding a lot of reward from the impact on the individual level, and I can tell some stories there. But also we're starting to, like, we just turned around the entire state of Georgia. We completely changed their coverage policy for these devices. Now 9 million people across Georgia that are covered by those policies could potentially get access to that. And that's such a cool thing, both for business opportunity, but also like we were actually able to change healthcare with some lobbying and showing our clinical research and that type of work. On the individual level, we have just incredible stories. I like to talk both to the child, the patient, and we have stories there of kids with severe autism that they weren't sleeping. They're getting like 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night. They're waking up 10 plus times. And I don't know about you guys, though, when I don't sleep as well, I'm not as good of a person. Like I get angry, I get emotionally unregulated. I don't physically grow as well. I get sick more often. And so we see, and now we've actually backed up with peer-reviewed clinical research, we just got published last month, that families are going from 2 to 4 hours a night to 6 to 8 hours a night of dedicated sleep on average. And that's resulting in less emergency room visits, less hospital admissions, less medication usage. And then down to the individual level, we see kids that were not hitting milestones. They're not using their AAC devices. They weren't able to speak. And a year later, after simply getting better sleep, they are now having their first words. They're integrating into more typical classes, and they're hitting big milestones that I think have a compounding impact over the next 10 or 20 years of their life. That at age 3 to 5, getting good sleep then and actually hitting your therapy milestones may result in you actually being able to graduate high school or get a job coming out of school versus the inverse of that of you end up really stagnated and stuck. And then the family level, this one was one of the most impactful stories for me recently, was we got a review of a father, and he had a daughter with severe autism. She's 13 years old, and she was constantly eloping out of the house. So he'd find her in the street, potentially getting hit by traffic. Wow. Really, really scary for her and, of course, for him. And so he was sleeping at the front door, bars on the windows, sleep at the front door every night in a lazy boy chair, which, of course, means he was not getting good sleep. And his day job was he was a semi-truck driver. So he was actually on his third infraction of falling asleep at the wheel, and one more and he would lose his job, a really core, critical American job. And he left us a review 6 months after getting the bed of, my daughter's able to sleep, I'm back in my bedroom sleeping in my bed, and I'm able to now continue holding down this really important job. So that ripple effect too, It's not really just about the kids, it's the parents, the siblings, the doctors around, even the DME providers who are able to help them in other ways. I think that's my favorite part of this business.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible because if you're getting good sleep, you don't think about any of this really. Like it doesn't impact you, or it's just kind of your life goes on. But when you hear these stories, it's super impactful.
Totally. And I think something a lot of people can often relate to is I think everyone understands how hard the first like 6 months to a year of having a newborn child are. Like you don't sleep with that baby. Yeah. That's this for these families the rest of their life. Like it's just that for forever, unless you end up fixing it with a product like Cubby, better therapy, sensory interventions, things like that. But it wears on you.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
absolutely.
I can't imagine. And most people, I guess, if you're not in that situation, you wouldn't have any idea. But it's clearly impacting so many people's lives, and you've done a really great thing with this product, and you've come a long way. And you've partnered with a lot of different people, a lot of different companies. You've partnered with Stanford, LA Children's Hospital, and VC companies are kind of backing your mission. Do you ever kind of pause to take in how far this whole thing has come?
Yeah. It's hard at times because the work gets bigger, the opportunity gets bigger. But we try to spend some time on that at least once a quarter. So I tend to deliver some form of like value speech each quarter, really talking to progress, talking to great examples of values in the culture. We hit a really big revenue milestone maybe 6 months ago and did like riddles in our company communication system Slack leading up to that, of like, didn't tell the employees what it was going to be, but that we were going to have this special surprise once we hit this big milestone. We had riddles and like a thermometer leading up to the milestone. And then finally on that day, I had everyone dress up really fancy and rented 2 stretch limos, toured around Denver in the stretch limos and like stopped for drinks at one place, did some cool photos, and then ended up doing one of the nicest dinners I've ever had here in town, just to try to step back, reflect on it. Even had like a cake that was the shape of a cubby bed, which was fun, and just try to celebrate those moments, because the work never stops, the mission never stops, but you do got to take the time to celebrate and reflect and just be proud of the work you're doing.
That's awesome, man. What is the next 5 to 10 years looking ahead? What's the future of Cubby Beds look like?
Yeah, I think we have some big dreams and visions there. I think there's maybe 3 areas I'd touch on. One is really dialing in the process of getting the product itself. And so that's a lot of where I'm spending time on now. Is we have just incredible demand. We have almost 1 million people that have signed up to be interested in our product, that have filled out a 20-question survey to see if they'd qualify, to see if they're a good fit. That's just incredible opportunity to help more of those families and build a big business. But the challenge for most of them is they get stuck in the middle. They can't figure out how to get the prescription or the right documentation or find the DME that helps them through the process. Or they finally make it that far, and then the insurance company is like, this is not medically necessary, or this is investigational and experimental. Or we're like, this kid's been in the hospital 4 times this year. Each one of those visits was like 5 times the cost of a bed. We need to figure out how to show them that evidence, that 1, it improves the kid's health, 2, that it actually saves these insurance companies money. And so we published our first clinical research, which showed some really great improved health outcomes, and then also cost ROI research that shows Medicaid plans, insurance payers, that for Down syndrome, these kids with Down syndrome are in the hospital all the time. Our data is showing that the device can pay for itself in 7 months, ROI positive. Wow. And if it lasts for 5 years, you have a really big ROI on that. Autism's a little bit beyond a year. They don't quite as many ER visits and hospitalizations as kids with Down syndrome. So that stuff I'm really excited about. More research, more really showing the story, and then how do you use that with lobbying, advocacy work, et cetera, to create a category here, to really make it that this is a standard of care for these kids. It's not an experiment. This is something that's been proven to help them and will help with all the other things they're spending money on, like their therapy, their school, their medications, their nurses. All those other things benefit if the kid is sleeping better and is safer. On the product side, I'm really interested to continue investing in technology. So we are developing new technology that would allow us to better control aspects of the bed with software. I see a world where this bed is doing non-contact monitoring of these kids. Many of the kids are nonverbal. They can't speak or can't speak well. So it's really hard to tell that they're stressed or they didn't sleep well or they're having incontinence issues. And I see a world where we have sensors in the bed that are tracking all these things: heart rate variability, which is indicative of stress levels, sleep quality, breathing rates, incontinence, potentially a world of seizures, although that's a much higher FDA class, but is still really impactful. And then correlating that with, you could have inputs from the parents, the caregivers, or their medical team on, have we changed their exercise, their diet, their therapy, their medications? In effect, I think you could show that a kid was recently prescribed Adderall, he's now more stressed or not sleeping as well, or we introduced gluten into their diet and they're wetting the bed more often. It's really hard for parents to track that ongoing, but I think with software, you could do that on the individual basis, essentially give these kids a voice, and then over time zoom out to, we have tens of thousands of patients using this, you could see clinical grade trends across all these different patients, which I think could unlock some really interesting research, better features in the product, automation in the product, even down to kid wakes up, turn on this soothing sensory routine, which has been proven across 1,000 kids to be the most soothing. Those are really interesting areas of product development that I get fascinated by. And longer term, maybe we develop other products as well. We're pretty focused on the beds for now, but I think kids with special needs need a lot of help in a lot of different areas, and I think we're pretty well fit to do it.
That's great. That's awesome, man. Yeah, what a cool mission. What a life-changing kind of story product you have here. This has been a really cool episode for sure. Definitely learned a lot. I think we can move on to our rapid fire and we can wrap this thing up. Usually we just end up with a little rapid fire, kind of like a this or that kind of thing, and we end out with that. Sound good?
Sure. That sounds great.
All right, cool. All right, cool. First rapid fire. Book smarts or street smarts?
Street smarts, but I do read a lot of books, and then I try to apply them to the street.
Okay, fair.
That.
Mentor somebody or be mentored?
I have had incredible mentors. I really seek out mentorship. So right now I'm in the be mentored phase, but longer term, I'm trying to make it more of a goal to mentor other people. And I went through a lot of pain and challenges here that I think I can pass on to others and would really love that.
Right on. Success defined by money or impact?
Impact. To create more impact.
No margin, no mission, right?
There we go.
I like that. Golf course or boardroom?
I don't really golf, so boardroom. If it was golf course or snowboarding, I'd go snowboarding.
There you go. Shark Tank pitch or quiet investor dinner?
Shark Tank pitch. I've
There
done
you
a
go.
lot of that.
I
Right
feel
on,
like you
well-
would kill it on Shark Tank.
I know. I was just thinking the same thing as I was saying. I was like, either that or
No, I think they would. Kevin O'Leary would hate my valuation I'd request, but watch it all. I was watching it this weekend. It's fun.
there you go. Yeah, I could see you doing a TED Talk too. You got a lot of really awesome information and a really good presenter for that information too. So Caleb, this has been a lot of fun. If you have anyone who wants to kind of try to reach out to you or find out more about your company, how can people do that?
Happy to chat. So Cubby Beds, CUBBYBEDS.com. I'm also pretty active on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. Caleb Polley. Feel free. Also, we sign up a lot of amazing DME partners. We've got 300 to 400 active branches across the U.S. right now, and I know you guys have a lot of DME listeners. So our whole goal is to support you, help you find families, help you make some money on a really important and useful product. So would love to chat with you all as well. And we've got a form on the website you can reach out to sign up or learn more, and my team will walk you through it.
Excellent.
Amazing. Thanks again, Caleb. This was awesome, man. I follow you on LinkedIn, so I've seen a lot of your content's awesome, but it was really great getting to chat here face to face. So a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, nice to chat with you too, Alex and Wayne. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks so much. Hopefully we can do it again. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good. See ya.